Welcome back, guys, to another race. It's episode 22 today of our F1 23 My Team Career Mode. This one at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. For the very first time, we'll be driving down that Las Vegas strip here in My Team Career Mode on this game. If you guys did miss the previous episode at the Brazilian Grand Prix, then be sure to go check the one out. Before you see this one, it was a much needed Grand Prix for us. Really amazing performance. It was the last sprint race weekend of the entire season. The sprint was going well until we suffered an engine failure, our third one in as many, like 10 races basically gone back. It's really happened in this last third of the season, so we had to make a stonking comeback, and that we did in the full Grand Prix, coming from the back of the grid with a fresh engine. Yes, a little bit lucky with the likes of Hamilton, Fernando Alonso having car issues, and then Alonso actually fought his own teammate Lando Norris way too much in the McLarens, and so they both kind of tripped over themselves and gave us a much needed bit of breathing room, and we just had some insane pace really on the hard tyres. Verstappen was struggling with a bit of tyre wear at the end of the race, clearly because he got overtaken by his own teammate as well. So not only did we get third place, we got second place on the podium, and after a DNF at the USGP Qatar, you know, it was a struggle. P6 though was pretty solid, but P9 in Mexico really wasn't great. The car felt awful around there. We really needed last race's results just to bounce back a little bit, try and turn the tide on McLaren a little bit. But Las Vegas, I think we could go well around here. Obviously, engine power is going to mean so much down that strip, and we have a lot of that. That's our best part of the car, is the engine department. The chassis and aero is still lacking a little bit, but just having a little look at the driver market before we go on towards the race weekend, because I've seen that, so the contract period is a bit broken, and there was a patch recently this week on F1 23 that was meant to fix the contract period, because right now it can trigger before the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Now the patch apparently was meant to fix that, but I've now seen from another creator, Tom97, the contract period's still broken, so we might have to, well, re-sign Piastri or sign someone before Abu Dhabi. I'm saying Piastri because looking at our money, I don't think we can actually afford anyone, and to be honest, I want to keep faith with Oscar. He's done a great job this season, so why change him out for the last race? And then into next season, it's a different question of what we can do with the funds we'll get from sponsors, etc., and if we can have our own little contract period with our own teammate and try and work around the broken system right now, basically with a mod. I don't know, but right now we know it's going to be broken maybe, so we don't have a lot of cash. We may need to re-sign Piastri and basically waste money on him for one race only, because I don't think we can sign others. I don't know, some of them might want Spec 2 on the HQ, and we need to spend money on that, which we don't have. So it's actually going to be a bit of a difficult situation money-wise. You know, we may have done so well this season with R&D, but at the end of this season, we're really feeling the hit of a little bit less cash in the bank. I think the balance changes they made on this game have very much more heavily leaned towards the actual cash you're earning rather than the R&D. Well, clearly, you know, from the differences there. So that's going to be a problem we need to face next episode in the finale of this season at Abu Dhabi. But for now, our eyes are set on the race weekend for the very first time at Las Vegas. But before we get into that, today's video is sponsored. Yep, this video is sponsored by Boohoo Man, who recently launched a brand new racing game exclusively on their app. Click the link in the description and download the Boohoo Man app and head over to the Man Prix game. You can play a quick race versus the AI or a multiplayer with 3 other people, and there's a £2,000 cash giveaway, and the competition ends July 17th, so get involved. And now we're going to get stuck in and involved in our own qualifying here at Las Vegas for the very first time. This track, it looks incredible in the game. The amount of detail they've gone to around the strip, it's going to be pretty damn awesome. But I've actually seen there's a forecast for maybe quite a fair bit of rain come race day, so that's a little frustrating. The first ever time we're going to experience the Las Vegas GP might be in not so great conditions, but qualifying, we're going to soak in this brand new second circuit on the game and try and hopefully suss out where our pace is. I'm hoping we could be quite well. There's so many of these straights on this circuit, you know, only a handful of actually properly tricky corners where maybe our chassis and aero weaknesses will come into play. And actually, in terms of the feeling, the car felt really stuck to the road because I've actually put the wings up because there is rain on the way. When I mean rain, the forecast says it's going to rain most of the race. So I've put the wing on the front and the rear about 10 clicks up from where the default setup is. Now, that's quite a lot. That's a risk if the rain doesn't actually come for the entire race. And it's also a risk for qualifying because it means we are going to be that little bit slower on the straights. But at the same time, remember, we've got the third best engine on the grid, only behind Aston Martin and Mercedes. So it kind of counterbalances. We've got more downforce now in the corners because of the setup change. And the straight line speed may just equalise to other cars around us because of those wings, basically, because we have that advantage in a straight line. So I think overall, I'm still quite optimistic about our pace. And actually, obviously, in qualifying, you know, over one lap, if you have more downforce, that's not really an issue. It's more of an issue in the race if you have more downforce than you actually need. But because it's going to rain, I think that will actually be a benefit to us compared to how we've gone sometimes in the rain with lower wings. So Q1, we set 2 flying laps. The second one found a bit more of a sweet spot in terms of getting some time out of the corners. Still Sector 2, a big challenge in some of those blind corners, but getting used to it, you eventually get a bit of muscle memory of where you're meant to be braking, and we come up in P12. I believe Piastri has also made it through into Q2, so we'll see what we can both do towards Q3. I'm hopefully aiming for Q3. Obviously, Piastri, I just hope he can maybe get, you know, a solid like P15 to 14 potentially, and then he can do something in the race. But I genuinely believe this car actually might be quite good around here, especially in race conditions. You know, Piastri's probably on a default setup. I reckon he could probably make some moves, hopefully, and, you know, instill some confidence maybe in the last 2 races, because I need him, because we may have done a great job around Sao Paulo getting second place, but in reality, it'd be so much better if he was also scoring even just a point or 2 just to help us out, because we don't know how close it's going to be with the fight to McLaren at the end of the season. Even though we did get a lot of points, I'm not counting on that. You know, all of a sudden, McLaren could get 2 top 5s, and then we're in trouble. So we just narrowly make it through into Q3. I actually set my first flying lap on a scrub set of soft tyres. The new set was the final lap, and we just about found enough time to scrape on by. Literally 8 thousandths of a second, and we would have been knocked out by Lance Stroll. So that's how fine it was. It was a 132.940 to a 0.948 between myself and Stroll. So we were literally millimeters away from being knocked out of the top 10 shootout. Maybe it won't matter too much because I don't fancy my chances of going much higher than P10 maybe in Q3. Sector 2, I think this is the smoothest I've ever done this sector so far. So I was pretty damn happy with it, to be honest. So I think compared to the Q2 lap, I think we've improved there, but I think others are rapidly improving and getting quicker and quicker through the lap. So as we round the final couple of corners, nice little left and right shimmy and shake towards the final stretch as we go through that very quick, technically last corner onto the straight, basically, but the grid crosses the line there, basically, on the race start. But like I said, it's going to be P10. We did actually improve on our Q2 lap time, but everyone else exponentially improved. I mean, the Mercedes cars got into the 131, so they're looking mighty. Hamilton on pole position, Verstappen down in P8. Now, that's massive because remember last episode, Verstappen turned the tides on Hamilton with that car issue he had, and he now has quite a commanding lead in the championship. But mathematically, Hamilton can still pull this back. If he was to go on to win this race and Verstappen finished where he kind of qualified in P8, that would be enough to maybe set up a championship decider in Abu Dhabi where legitimately Hamilton has a chance. So we'll keep an eye on how Verstappen makes progress. But for us, we're next to Lando on the same road of the grid, so that's pretty good at least to maybe get one McLaren in the race, and then we'll see how far or where Alonso is basically after lap 1. P4 for him is very impressive though on the second row, beating both Red Bulls, the Alpine splitting the Ferrari, so it's going to be tough competition, but I feel more at ease because of what we did at Sao Paulo. But let's go to the race, and like I said, don't be surprised if it looks very, very wet out there. We've got a potentially very challenging Grand Prix ahead of us for the first time in Las Vegas.
Welcome along to Las Vegas. Saturday night's all right for driving. Well, it is here tonight as F1 takes over the entire city and the Formula One circus comes to town. So a lap of Las Vegas comprises 3.8 miles and 3 straights, but our drivers won't be at top speed down them today as it's very wet out there. It does rain in the desert, sometimes, and now it poses a question of bravery and of strategy. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Lewis Hamilton lines up on pole position, just ahead of George Russell, who starts this event from P2. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Sainz, Gasly, Verstappen, Norris, the owner driver, Stroll, Albon, Perez, Bottas, Leclerc, Ocon, Oscar Piastri, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Liam Lawson, Sargent, Sonoda, De Vries and Zhou Guanyu. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for today's race. They've been involved in a number of costly incidents lately. That's got to affect their mindset going into this race.
Certainly confidence is an important factor. And every time you're involved in an incident, it's not just the car you damage, but that confidence as well. But all the top racing drivers are able to tune that out when the race gets underway and focus on the job at hand.
When I said it was going to be a wet race for Las Vegas, oh my god, I wasn't kidding. This is even surprising me as we start this race from P8 because others have some penalties. So Verstappen is up to P6. That'll be good for him in his fight to try and limit the damage to Hamilton. For us, myself and Lando move up 2 positions. Sorry, up to P7 and 8 respectively. But oh my god, look how wet it is. There is so many standing puddles reflecting so many droplets of rain on the camera. The amount of water coming down out of the sky is truly biblical. This is biblical rain, and so we're going to need a pretty biblical race here to try and do well. It is so wet. It's going to be such a challenge. This is a stab into the unknown. We've not done a single bit of wet weather running around this circuit, and now we're getting thrown into our very first full Grand Prix in my team career mode. So we're going to need all the luck we can get. Let's go to 5 red lights to our first Las Vegas Grand Prix. Lights out. And away we go. And it's a bit of a shaky start for one of the Ferrari cars. We're all moving about. My rear end can't stay still whatsoever as Lance Stroll dives down the inside of us. We're 3 wide with him and Lando. Bit of contact made with the Aston because I'm really struggling to find my footing with my right foot on the throttle as Sainz manages to get past Fernando Alonso. So I assume Leclerc's down the order. So he was one of the people who had a grid penalty. So it's Sainz in 3rd place now. Alonso P4. Gasly in the Alpine up to P5 ahead of Verstappen, which is surprising and quite impressive because remember, Alpine are behind us in the R&D chart. So if anything, that shows we might have a promising race of maybe fighting for the top 5, depending on where Verstappen's going to come and cut through this traffic maybe. But saying that, Verstappen actually looks a bit vulnerable because he's going for a move on Gasly, but he was also semi-defending against me. So I don't actually think Verstappen's going to have insane pace here. Once again, Red Bull a little bit on the back foot, and I think a lot of it's to do with engine power because we're catching Verstappen so quickly here, and because we've got higher wings than most people, I'm actually feeling pretty good in the corners compared to these guys. A little bit argy-bargy with Max. We've got a history from earlier on this season. Remember that Monaco crash where he went into the back of me at La Rasca, so maybe the fighting is a little bit personal as Verstappen comes back at me on the inside to try and re-overtake us, but we have the better exit. We have much better acceleration than the Red Bull and the straight line speeds there, and we have actually booked in our P6 here behind Gasly, who is right on the back of Fernando Alonso. He's struggling to keep up with the top 3, and on lap 2 down the Las Vegas strip, Gasly going for a move. It's absolutely soaking, but he's going to go for it, send it to the inside. The McLaren is veering away a little bit at the front end, and he's been squeezed out. They're still side by side, and they've slowed each other up so much that we've got an insane run on Alonso, and we're going to try and get past him. We have got past him up into P5. Gasly doing the work for us, setting up that move, and we're going to follow him through, getting very, very comfortable with the wall on the right-hand side, kind of treating like that corner like Monaco almost. If you get close to the wall, you're doing a good job there as as we squirm away on the rear end, so still reminding us that this is a treacherous situation with this much water on the circuit. But this car's got pace, and this is absolutely showing that I made the 100% correct decision to put the wings higher. This car feels great in the corners compared to others, and Alonso is now over a second behind us. I think he's got another issue like he had at Sao Paulo. Verstappen is on the back of him. He's lost 2 positions. Yellow flags though, and up the road. Oh, it's a red flag. Hamilton is round and he's blocking the track. It's an absolute pile-up here as everyone is going to bunch up. My AI car reversed back into some cars. I really hope I don't lose those positions for that, but it's a red flag. This is the replay then. Oh, Hamilton span it! Hamilton span it off that corner, just showing the AI also finding it very difficult around here. And he basically almost T-bones his teammate, Russell, coming right at his side pod. Thankfully for him, no damage done. He'll actually still start the red flag then off the private lights in first, but on board from Hamilton, you just saw his car got unsettled by the first curb. He tried to correct it and then the throttle just got away from him. On board with Russell, yeah, you can see the spin is starting already through the left-hander, and then through the right-hander he tries to correct, spins it. Russell narrowly avoids maybe a race-ending contact, so the 2 Mercs are very, very lucky boys. They're still going to be 1 and 2 on the restart, and Hamilton is very lucky because that would have been game over for him in the championship. But with the red flag coming out very early, actually, because there was obviously a massive concertina pile-up of cars just parking it basically at that corner, very, very narrow. That's why the red flags come out. So now we're going on for another set of 5 red lights. The restart after this red flag is a go, lights out, and it's a good start for Russell. On the left, I can see Hamilton a bit slow, Gasly slow. Can we jump the Frenchman into turn 1? Sainz tries to go around the outside of Russell. Hamilton's actually got away a lot better than I thought actually initially through turn 1. He's actually kept the lead, and Russell's the one struggling because Sainz in the Ferrari is trying to squeeze out Russell as we do the work on Gasly to get up into P4. We're flying high here, and now we can see the podium ahead of us. Sainz still trying to get down the inside of Russell. We've gone too late on the brakes. We're going nearly straight on. It's a bit of a lock-up for us, and we narrowly survive and keep it on the black stuff to stay in the race, but we've lost 2 positions, and that just shows how tricky the conditions are. We've been driving so well. That was my first big high-profile mistake here in the wet, and it's cost us 2 positions, but we're going to be on the back of Alonso immediately. Even though the red flag saved him, he's still got a pretty slow car. There's definitely an issue with his car, because before the red flags, he got overtaken by Verstappen, Stroll, and I think Perez as well. So even though he's outbroken us there, I think we can have him off the left-hander. Oh my god. Okay, we've got our own problems. We need to recompose and maybe not get too excited about re-overtaking Alonso, because Verstappen now is round our outside. We're side by side with the reigning world champion. We squeeze him out though because we've got a good run through that final corner. A little bit wide on the entry. Verstappen is there. This is a great battle we're having legitimately with the Red Bull, because our setup is allowing us to have this pace versus others. Lap 7 though, all calm in Hamilton's world. He's still P1 now. Russell second, Sainz third. Behind me, the 2 Red Bulls are now scrapping. Perez looking to overtake his teammate, which is giving us breathing room. We're now nearly, well, we are now 2 seconds clear. We gained 2 seconds on Verstappen in 1 corner just because of his fighting with Perez there, and that's given us breathing room to get our head down and catch back up to Fernando Alonso. And this time we won't make the same mistake as last time. After this strip, we're going to take it nice and easy through that left and right. We're catching Alonso, looking for the break point. Easy does it through the left, roll the car through, use a lot of curb on the right hand side. Now really wait for the throttle. There's still a bit of twitching, but it's a much better exit. We've learned from our mistake. Purple in the second sector. We are flying in these conditions, and we should be able to get Alonso. He does very well to defend from us into the last corner. Turn 1, we have a little look. Alonso gets the apex first, but then on the exit, watch that little squirm of the rear. Alonso invites us in. He gives us the room. We're to the inside, getting oh so close to the wall, oh so close to Fernando Alonso, but both of us keeping it pretty respectful, with the context of how much is at stake here between ourselves and McLaren. Quite surprised Alonso didn't break out any kind of, more aggressive tactics, but I just don't think he has the pace. Norris is down in P10. I'm still adamant Alonso has some sort of car issue, because I think once we've overtaken him here in clean air, we're going to start to chase after Gasly, but I'm going quite slow in Sector 2 because I'm starting to feel the circuit's getting drier. My engineer's been telling me maybe we're not on the right tyre, but right now it's kind of a case of all of us being too stubborn to not pit yet. We're getting to the pit stop window, which is like, set in stone with the strategy, and that's when we'll switch over to inters. But looking back at the race, I think it could have been intermediates from lap 10. Maybe we should have gone for the gamble. Instead, we're in P5. Verstappen and Perez have got past Alonso. Alonso is down in P22. He's had a nightmare. I think he's maybe pit, but he got swarmed by the Red Bulls. We're looking for the re-overtake on Verstappen, being very aggressive because I just want to keep this P5. This would do us wonders in the Constructors' Championship as Russell takes the lead. Sainz in second. Hamilton's pit onto inters. We should come in now. We should come in now. It's a lap earlier than our pit stop window, but we're going to go for it. Gasly stayed out. I think this is the correct call as we narrowly just make it in. And oh, what? It's a second red flag. It's a second red flag here in Las Vegas. What is going on in our first race here on the west coast of America? Absolute scenes. For the first time ever, I think, we've got 2 red flags in the same Grand Prix. And I don't actually know what this red flag's for, because that's the exact moment the red flag came out, yeah? Look at everyone. Alonso's way down here in last place, but I don't see anyone, apart from this pack. I don't know if this pack made contact and there's some debris. Piastri's managed to make 2 overtakes there, so I don't know whether the red flag came out because of debris somewhere on the circuit, but no one had span or blocked the circuit, so very peculiar red flag. But because of this red flag, it's definitely time for intermediates now. We're going to come into inters anyway, but this is basically now a free pit stop. But annoyingly, we actually lost some positions coming into the pits. Perez, Albon now ahead of us as we go to 5 red lights for the 3rd time in Las Vegas after the second red flag. Russell leads, Sainz second, Hamilton's down to P4 because he had already completed his pit stop before the red flag came out. So some of us really lost out, some of us gained. We've really overtaken Albon, thankfully, and we're now watching Perez and Hamilton fight. But, oh, wait, look at the top left. Verstappen is on full wets. What is he doing? What is he doing? The championship leader. I think Red Bull have made a howler there. Perez is on inters, for God's sake. Why is Verstappen still on full wets as Albon sends one to the inside? We're still trying to find some confidence in these intermediate conditions compared to the full wets. I think off the 5 red lights, I think the tyre temperatures are just still trying to get up to pace on the inters. So we've lost the position to the Aston, but as we go on through the corners, every apex, we're finding more confidence. The tyre temperatures are coming up, and we're going to start gaining back on Albon. And this is going to be the biggest proof of the higher downforce we've got is working out for us, because we go round the outside of Albon here, narrowly grazing the wall, committed as ever, and we send it on Sergio Perez for an absolutely unbelievable overtake up into P5. That was insane. That felt as satisfying as it looked on board here in this video. Just roll the car through, and the car has the grip for it. But unfortunately now, with his long back straight, Perez is able to come back at this. Albon as well. You've also got the Ferrari of Leclerc in the background with Verstappen as well in the other Red Bull. Albon outbrakes us. I'm taking it very easy because Perez goes wide. I didn't want to have a crash just like that was nearly maybe going to happen for the Aston and the Red Bull. We're just keeping our patience about us to maybe re-everything Albon into the final corner. We're down in P7. Annoyingly, we have definitely lost out in this second red flag, but we're looking to make the move on Albon now into turn 1. We go for it. Albon gives us the room. Verstappen, by the way, just pit off the full wets. What a howler for Red Bull. He's down to last place, and that's going to be music to Lewis Hamilton's ears, who is up in P4 there, looking to chase after Gasly to get back onto the podium. And Piastri is up to P9. Oh my god, go on Oscar, go on lad. Both of us in the points and both McLarens out the points. This is incredible. And our race is going to get even better. Yellow flags up the road. I think there's a car with a problem on this very long straight. It's going to feel like they're going at absolute crawling speed. It's Gasly. Gasly with an engine failure. Hamilton up to P3. That's a huge 15 points on Verstappen, who is out of the points. For us, we're back into a top 5. But for how long? Because Albon and Leclerc are lurking. We're doing so well. 6 laps to go. Can we hold this though? Even though I've got good engine power on the straights, when someone's behind you, they're going to get slipstream. And Albon and Leclerc both overtake us. I've been very cautious on the braking there, but that's for a reason, because I'm actually so confident I can re-overtake Leclerc into turn 1 and just stay with Albon to re-overtake him on the next time we get to the Las Vegas Strip. We've just, let them through basically nice and easy and just going for the re-overtake. Leclerc is there for the taking. We're going to just roll the car in, hit the apex. Leclerc goes wide anyway. We squeeze him out. Job done. Ferrari absolutely in our back pocket. And now we just need to stick behind Albon until the Las Vegas Strip, and then we'll overtake him again in the same way that he did to us. Basically, even though he might have a good amount of ERS, there's no DRS, but the slipstream is so powerful. And even without deploying battery, we're sticking with him and we're going for the overtake, such is the speed you're going at and the benefit you have of the slipstream. He's going to pull out ahead of us again. We're going to pull into the slipstream, pull out again to the outside, and then go for the lunge very late on the brakes. Probably the most confident I've ever been into that left-hander to get back into P5. But we've got to keep doing this now for 5 laps because Perez is miles ahead of us now, 4.4. Oh, it's a crash for Bottas. Is that going to be another red flag, I wonder? No, it's just the safety car, though, but that's still incredible. 2 red flags and a safety car in the same race. I wouldn't have thought Las Vegas would have been this chaotic, to be honest. I know it's a narrow circuit, but there's also so much runoff area, etc. But I guess the wet weather conditions just making everything treacherous. So now on the safety car restart, maybe there's half a chance of getting Perez. He got away from us in the previous stint, but now we're going to try and go for it. Hamilton sticking behind Sainz. Perez a bit wide. We're going to get the elbow out to try and overtake him. It's another illegal overtake glitch as Lando Norris is just completely out of the Grand Prix. He's retired before he even crossed the line for lap 24 here off the safety car. That's bad news for him, and Alonso, I think he's out the point, so it's great news for us versus McLaren, but we're now struggling on this set of tyres. I actually reckon if there was a couple of more laps of this Grand Prix, we'd be on to dries soon. That's how I'm feeling. It's feeling like the AI have a little bit of an advantage to me in the corners because we're locking up now a lot, and generally that's when the changeover is, and the AI is so good at it as we now try and re-overtake Leclerc, Piastri, Albon, everyone and their mother seems to be on this straight. Perez has gone for the triple overtake on Leclerc, Piastri and myself, and he's maybe got it as he gets Leclerc up into P4. The Ferrari tucks in. Albon has spun and crashed into the wall through that shimmy and shake left and right as we try and re-overtake Piastri, our own teammate, but he's up in P7 though, I must say, on the last lap of the Grand Prix. This is insane stuff for him as we re-overtake the Ferrari. The Red Bull, I think he's going to be too much for us. It just wasn't in the cards. A top 4 is going to be too much to ask for, but a top 5 and a 5 and 6 for aarava Archer Racing, yes please, that's what I want. Leclerc's overtaken us, but I've actually let him by into that corner on purpose, kind of, because I want Piastri to get the toe. We're playing a massive team game here. I'm letting Piastri get the double slipstream off me, off Leclerc. He goes for the left-hand side. We go to the outside. Leclerc's been overtaken. Piastri has to defend, though. Leclerc trying his best. We go over the curb on the left. We're going to try and dance our way through to the inside, and we're going to let Piastri keep the P5 on purpose. I won't overtake him. We're going to come through for an amazing team finish, P5 and 6.
And as they take the checkered flag, the fans go wild. They broke the bank in Las Vegas. The strip has been conquered. What do you think it was today, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition?
Well, keeping their tyre temperatures up in the tricky wet conditions was really important. There's not much grip out there at the best of times, and it's 10 times worse if you're out there on cold tyres. So the way they kept the rubber in its proper operating window was a huge advantage today.
Here come our winners now, a thrilling race and a tremendous effort by Ferrari. Their history is well known, so it's no surprise to fans the world over to see them come out on top once again.
Amazingly, Carlos Sainz was actually the one that won that race. We missed when he overtook Russell, but at some point he got him. I think it may have been on the safety car restart whilst we were too busy fighting Perez and the other Ferrari of Leclerc. I think that's when he got it. So Sainz, really surprising win, a great one for Ferrari. I think Leclerc won Brazil as well, remember? So it's back-to-back wins for the Scuderia. Won't matter for much though. Really, the big story is Mercedes will retake the lead in the Constructors' Championship with a 2-3, and Hamilton gets 15 points on Verstappen's 0 because he recovered to P13. Fair to him, you know, that's a very good recovery from last place at one point, pitting off the full wet. But Red Bull and Verstappen might just regret that one decision not to start him on inters off the second red flag, because Hamilton now is only 5 points behind Verstappen going into Abu Dhabi. It is game on. We have an actual Drivers' Championship title decider, and it's Verstappen versus Hamilton 2.0 at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and in the Constructors, it's Merc v Red Bull. That is so exciting. For us, we're ahead of Fernando by, 19 points. Piastri gets a lot of good points on the board for the first time this season, and that really helps us out. 184 points to their 149. This 5-6 finish really is going to set us up for a very comfortable last Grand Prix where we can just focus on trying to do the best job we can, maybe also sorting out this broken contract period. But guys, if you have enjoyed a really incredible first ever Las Vegas Grand Prix for us in this career mode, then be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.